No, it's really wonderful to come back. I'm not in the political world anymore, but I really enjoy politics and I enjoy campaigns. And I so much love this county. I grew up in Carmel, but my father was a state senator and I was never going to go into politics. But he was a great dad and he used to take me all around the district and to see everything. And not that he represented this county, but he would always come over here and go down the airline highway, a name I could never understand. And, you know, I got introduced to the Pinnacles and everything else. So it just became, and then I was in the Peace Corps in Colombia, and when I came back and was driving around, when the hills are green here, it just looks exactly like the area that I was in Colombia, and so it's just had a special meaning to me, this county. And what I've learned in politics is that, as a county supervisor and a state legislator and a Congress member, is that this county is surrounded by incredibly all these urban pressures. You're the most rural. And in fact, in politics, you never get your county cut up into pieces like you're now doing in Santa Cruz and Monterey County in these new districts because you're so small. I think you only have a population of about 55,000 people. And what you see is that the pressures on these counties on your sides are all spilling over in here. What they can't do there, they come and do here. Because what you don't have here in Monterey and Santa Cruz County is sort of an appellate process for bad decisions. In those counties, the cities and the counties and special districts in the coastal zone have to develop what they call a local coastal plan, which is the state sets out all these sort of goals that your plan has to address, is how you're going to do them. And then you develop that plan according to your planning process. And you can add more, like in Monterey County, we put in a provision called viewshed protection. I think we're the only county in the United States that in our zoning has viewshed protection, meaning that if you're driving down Highway 1, if you build anything since the Coastal Act's been, you cannot build it in the viewshed. So if you have property and maybe zoned for commercial and we limited the commercial to only 160 rooms, of which 100 have already been claimed. So you can't build your house or structure if you can see it from the road. And so those are kinds of really strong open space protections that are in law. So when you make a bad decision in those counties or cities, you can appeal it to the Coastal Commission. And oftentimes, big development particularly, gets appealed to the Coastal Commission and they deny it. It's not that the big development goes away, it's they go back and try to figure, okay, how do we plan this to meet the approval of the Coastal Commission, all the requirements there, that the county didn't do a good job or the city didn't do a good job in planning that development. You don't have that in San Benito County. You don't have any appellate process. You don't have any second choice. Look at it again. Measure Q gives you that. And as a rural county, that's about the only tool you can have in law. Where you turn it over and say, hey, our appellate process is going to be this community. You'll know, and I know, because I've seen it in the process, and I have a whole story about how Pebble Beach spent millions of dollars doing this big plan and even got the votes on the Coastal Commission to approve it, but then they never got to hear it because the county had not followed procedural grounds to get the measure before the Coastal Commission, so the commission was told you don't have jurisdiction, you can't vote on it, and killed this multi-million-dollar project. Peter Ruberoff, chair of that, went back to Peter Douglas, head of the Coastal Commission, and said, what can I do? I'm a businessman. What do I do? And he said, you got to cut out that golf course. You were going to cut down all those trees, and even if you gotten the permit, we would have sued you. And I mean, the Sierra Club would have sued you. They would have won, because this is the seed corn of Monterey pine. Even though it's the most grown tree all over the world, this is the mother birthplace of the Monterey pine, and you just can't cut all those thousands of trees down for a golf course. But if you sort of do the other things, we can approve it. He went back, put the plan before the county approved it, went before the Coastal Commission approved it. I mean, there was just no argument because they'd gone back and done it again and done it right. So if you have Measure Q, you will have the ability to make sure that they do it right. And it holds the electeds, knowing that you have that process, it holds them accountable when they're making the decisions. They're going to have to be better and ask better questions and go deeper into issues so that the project really does meet what you in the community feel is logical. And you know, in this whole idea of building Mount Basura here, I prefer that we would advertise Mount Fremont Peak rather than Mount Basura. And that's again an example of what happens when these counties have tough restrictions, and nobody wants to increase a landfill in Santa Clara County or in Monterey County or in Santa Cruz, and really don't have the authority to do it. So what they want to do is find some place where they can export their garbage, and they take advantage of a rural county nearby, coming in saying, well, we'll give you some money, we'll build some roads, we'll put some money into this, and we'll have a really great modern land dump. But do you really want all those trucks? And why should you be paying for, you're paying too, why should you be paying for garbage coming from other areas? So, you know, it's just, that's a kind of decision that I think what happens in politics is that you, the proponents of a project that have a lot of money, they know how to lobby, and they know how to talk to you and show you what all the benefits are. And for a city or a county, the benefits are the revenues more than anything else. Because every city manager and county administrator, what they want to do is have a little bit more money in the budget because there's so many demands on that budget to do things, and they never have enough money, we can't do it. Well, here we got a way to pay for it. We have a pay for it. We'll allow this development to come in, and the development fees will give us some more money or whatever they put on there. But they don't think, those managers, because they're thinking fiscally, not aesthetically. And I think what this county has to sell is aesthetics. I think the future of California is all about the rural areas, and preserving the rural areas. I mean, the Chinese are, I did a lot of stuff on tourism because I represented, you know, in your county too, we're trying to get tourism. I think the park was one of my projects to bring tourists to this county. But we found out with the Chinese coming here, the nouveau riche in China, and there are a lot of them, they love coming to California. They don't want to see San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego. They want to see rural parts because they don't have a lot of rural land that's available or beautiful. And they're really interested in you know, sort of getting into particular Western gear and things like that, buying that. And so there's a whole difference between sort of the Japanese tourist culture, which is repetitive and does go to all those places along the coast, and more lineal and more structured. So again, I think that we want to appeal to where the tourism market's coming, and I'm on a board in Salinas to try to help promote the Salinas Valley, because when we advertise, come visit the Central Coast, what we're really doing is selling the coastline. You know, selling Boardwalk in Santa Cruz, selling Elkhorn Slough and the Slough Safari and the Phil's Fish Market and sort of the aesthetics of that thing. And then you run over to Monterey and you got to see the aquarium and see Cannery Row. And after that, drive around 17-mile drive, visit this cute little community called Carmel, and then go see the Big Sur Coast. That's what the that's what the tourists are told. They're not told to come over in these mountains. And what I found when we developed the national park, because I'd heard this from other communities, particularly Mariposa, because Mariposa is an unincorporated city, but it's the gateway to Yosemite. And the town said that we couldn't exist without Yosemite. Everything that we do in this town is based on Yosemite. And it's what they call gateway cities. And I thought, well, if we create the pinnacles, we've got Hollister, San Benito, San Juan Bautista somewhat, and certainly on the other side, Soledad. Soledad grabbed it. The mayor of Soledad came to me many years before the park, and he said, Sam, our town's dying. We don't have any spirit of growth here. And what I found when I was chair of the local government committee is that every city wanted Google to move their corporate headquarters to Soledad. You know, that's not going to happen. I said, it's not going to happen. you're going to take advantage of what you have. You have a mission on one side of you. You have freeway going right through the middle of you. All those thousands of cars, millions of cars. You've got the Pinnacles on the other side. You've got this wind that now they're taking, they have this wind and wine festival where they fly kites because the wind's always blowing, and they do that. And so they picked up on it. I said, Pinnacles could be the gate. You could be the gateway city. The day after the bill was signed, they put up a sign on the road saying gateway to the Pinnacles. And so I think that, I don't know now which side gets the most visitors. You don't have any camping on the what they call the west side, but people are going there. And Soledad was telling me, my God, we have people coming here now wanting to invest in building hotels and building restaurants. They want to use us as a gateway city. We think we have a great potential. So I think, you know, you have places like that. I mean, this breakfast this morning, I was thinking, I went to a doctor yesterday. I said, I need to really get seriously about diet. And he said, yeah, way long overdue. But it's interesting. He said, Sam, he said, the whole structure of how we eat is wrong. You've got to reverse it. He said, your biggest meal needs to be breakfast because you're going to burn it off. Right. And your second meal can be lunch. And he said, but your smallest meal, he said, you should just have some grass-fed beef. I said, organic? And he said, well, preferred. And a salad or soup. He said, the lightest meal you ought to have in the day is dinner. So I said, well, I have addictions to things like ice cream. He said, have it for breakfast. So when I came here this morning, thinking about what he was saying yesterday, this is it. This is the greatest breakfast in California. So, and thank you for hosting us here at this wonderful organic farm. You know, I carried the organic legislation to allow organic to be legal, I mean to be enforced. And I'm really proud of that. It's just fun to see. So I see this advertising against Measure Q, and I can't believe it. And I think the only way to try to, the best measure against it is just expose the money and where it's coming from. I mean, why would all these people who don't even live here have no vested interest in the future of how this place feels or looks? Wants to spend all their money here because they know they can take it out. They're not going to put it in here. It was interesting going back on that Peter Uberoff when I was talking to him, when I said to him, he'd put together a group of people and they just bought Pebble Beach for $500 million. And I was worried because I thought, how are they going to get a return on their investment? Well, the first thing Peter did, he said, all of my investors were all very wealthy people. He said, I required that they have to have a house in Pebble Beach. Because we're not here for the short term. We're not flipping this. We're here permanently. And I said, well, how can you make a lot of money then? He said, well, we've done a survey and marketing survey, and the Pebble Beach logo has the highest rating in the country of any kind of private logo. Environmental, kind of like environmental. He says, so we're going to sell our logo. We're going to put it on clothes. We're going to put it on golf stuff. We're going to sell the concept of Pebble Beach. And with the real estate, we're actually going to downsize houses because people come here because it's really green. And if we sell all our lots, it's going to be less green. And we don't really need to make that much money. We don't when it gets sale in it. And besides that, when people move here and spend a lot of money on a lot, building a multi-million-dollar house, what the first thing they do is they oppose anything the company wants to do because they all become NIMBYs. And he said, so we don't need to sell that real estate. We can make more money off rentals. We're going to rent the golf courses, the hotels, the beach clubs, the tennis courts, the horseback riding. It's all about rental and selling in the stores. And we don't need to do real estate development to make money. We are going to try to preserve Pebble Beach and put a lot of that land that was going to be for housing, we're going to put it into environmental trusts that can never be built on. So and I use that because I also was involved in the whole changeover of Fort Ord, and it was the biggest. I mean, it's been about 12 years in Congress just working on Fort Ord issues. And the cities of Seaside and Marina just couldn't wait to get a hold of that real estate to do massive development. And their development is the highest and best use was another taco stand. because we'll get sales tax from it. Where Pebble Beach was saying, that's not the future. It's not about more shopping centers. And that was many years ago. I think Amazon's already proved that shopping centers are going to die. And yesterday we have a company in Marina called Joby. Man, go out and look at that stock. It's actually in production for a electric aircraft that'll be a taxi. And they're going to model it in New York and some of the big urban areas, but essentially, but it's all being built here locally. But the whole future is that they're going to do this very quiet, almost a drone type building, can carry 5 passengers, and they can pick you up almost anywhere, probably right here, and take you for 200 miles anywhere you want to go. So, you know, the future is really dramatically changing. And as I see San Benito County, if you can hold on to your cultural, rural environment, it's going to sell. You got to promote it. And I think you, frankly, in my opinion, do a lousy job of getting tourists. You ought to be able to pull the tourists out of Monterey and out of Santa Cruz and say, hey, if you're going to go over to Santa Cruz a day, how about coming over here? We got a lot of organic farms. We got San Juan Bautista. We could sell food and say, we just advertise that we have the best breakfast in all of California. So come every Sunday to San Juan Bautista, something like that. I mean, there's just tons of ideas that you have, but you're not going to be able to keep them if this county gets urbanized. As Ansel Adams told me, he said they want to fill the countryside with urban acne. And it seems to me that what they've done with these building nodes is massive urban acne, that it's going to kill the look and feel of San Benito County. So I'm here to help you in any way I can. And I just want to conclude by saying, Ignacio, your mayor, and I have become good friends. There was a time when we weren't such good friends because he ran against me for Congress. Yet we both really appreciate each other's sort of professional learning and growth in our positions. And we've been mutually supportive of each other. And I really think that as long as you have Roland and Ignacio on the council, because the council is going to determine the growth boundaries of Hollister. Yeah. And frankly, if you want to get investment in Hollister, put an urban limit line on there and say, look, for the next 10 years, you're going to have to build inside that line. And what that does is it takes underutilized lots, it takes rundown areas, they get investment. So you don't have to worry about urban renewal. The private sector will invest in those ugly things and try to improve them and make it, if that's the only game in town. So I'm a big fan of their support for, you know, not sprawl and I don't know if they're going to do urban limit lines, but I hope they do. Anyway, your county is special, but the only people that can keep it special are the voters. And you got a chance. Good luck.